When Rainbow Six Siege released back in 2015, nobody had any idea that it would become as popular as it is right now. However, by continuing to release new operators and maps that are totally free, but admittedly cost a lot of in-game dollar, as well as constantly making multiplayer matches more refined and stable, the developers have pulled off the unimaginable and managed to increase their player base tenfold. Consequently, the competitive shooter has amassed a hugely dedicated audience, which continues to make Siege an unparalleled success to this day. While not as recognized as the communities of Overwatch or Counter-Strike, fans of Ubisoft's opus are just as passionate, active, and opinionated, leading to a selection of topics that can instantly inspire fury or gooey eyes amongst players whenever they're brought up. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 things only Rainbow Six Siege fans will understand. Number 10. When Rook doesn't share his armor. As far as defenders go, Rook is one of the most popular base operators in Siege. It's essentially a dice roll as to whether someone choosing this defender will use their unique ability to help the team out and lay down armor packs for everyone, or run off at the start of the match and keep the stash for themselves. I mean, yeah, thanks man, I didn't want any anyway. Of course, while defenders not throwing down the armor can be a nuisance, it's just as annoying when you choose the operator yourself, and nobody bothers to pick up the extra defense you've so graciously doled out. Ungrateful swines. Number 9. Getting a rare item in an alpha pack for an operator you don't have. If there's one thing all Siege players can agree on, it's that the price of skins, camos, and cosmetics are far too high. Basic colors can set you back tens of thousands of renown, while the more substantial character skins are almost as much as a new operator. Thankfully then, the introduction of alpha packs, essentially loot boxes which give you the chance of winning a random item, made customizing your character a more viable pursuit. While it's not as generous as similar games, it's still a thrill to get a rare or an epic skin in one of these packs. That is, unless it's for an operator you rarely use, or don't even own. It's difficult to get one of these packs in the first place, so to get the positive reinforcement and glee of seeing a purple item explode from the random drop, only to quickly realize it's for a character you're still 20,000 renown away from unlocking, feels like a huge slap in the face. Number 8. Constantly tagging enemies until they destroy the camera. While being able to pull off headshots with pinpoint accuracy and blow away enemies with nitro cells is important, a passive player taking on the reconnaissance role is just as essential. They might not look like they're doing much laid down in the corner, essentially slouched on their phones, but hopping between cameras to give away the enemy position is vital. Of course, often you get wannabe tech experts, or more often than not, players who are just dead and bored, who think that the best way to use these additional cameras is to spam the tag button so that enemy players constantly get the "you have been spotted" message over and over again. It's a good way to rack up points, I admit, but it's an equally effective way of pissing off enemies to the point where they seek out and destroy the cameras, making them useless for the rest of the round. Hope those extra points were worth losing the match for. Number 7. The shame of being killed by a shield backed into a corner. I don't know why it happens, but every half-decent player seems to completely lose their shit when going up against an operator with a shield. Whether it's just down to panic, trying to take someone out using a shield, one-on-one can be a right hassle, especially if they back themselves into a corner, defended at every angle. It's an odd situation to come across. One player with their backs against the wall while their opponent can only look on bemused. When this stalemate occurs, a victory can only be achieved through mind games, as one opponent baits the other out and forces them to make a mistake. However, what makes these situations prone to ending in a blaze of hilarious glory is the fact that both players know they're being watched by their whole team. Nobody wants the embarrassment of being beaten to death with a shield in front of all their friends, and I can tell you that from personal experience. Number 6. Knowing a Caveira is roaming around. With the ability to mute her footsteps and lurk around maps with a silenced pistol, in the right hands, Caveira can be the biggest asset to the defending team. But her versatility and unpredictability is what makes her so hated by attackers. That's because the effectiveness of her abilities means players don't have to wait for opponents to come to them, but can actively search them out. Consequently, if you use the operator right, you can get the drop on anyone, whacking them with silenced headshots, or even, if you're feeling particularly particularly cheeky, going in for a close quarters knifing. To make matters worse, she can reveal the locations of the rest of the team if she downs you and then interrogates you. And there's nothing worse than having to admit to other players that she not only made you her bitch, but also compromised their position. Number 5. Getting spawn killed. Unlike other first-person shooters, attackers and defenders in Siege have their own distinct spawns, with the former starting outside a building they need to, well, lay siege to, while the latter start inside to fortify a room. At least that's the theory, because when the game actually begins, some defenders decide to leave their station and meet the incoming attackers head-on. Experienced players can guess where enemies are most likely to come in from, and are often ready, waiting with their guns drawn for unsuspecting operators to move into their crosshairs. There's nothing worse than being sniped as soon as you start a match, but it's so frustrating because there's simply not much you can do to retaliate if you're not expecting it. It's a viable tactic, but it's not very sportsmanlike. And I'm definitely not only saying that because I don't have the skill to do it myself. Number 4. Seeing a Kapkan over a castle-enforced door. Equipped with 5 near-invisible explosives that can be attached to door frames and windows, Kapkan is incredibly effective at killing and injuring enemies attempting to sneak around the back of an objective or attacking from a flank. Likewise, if the round timer is almost empty and the enemy team starting to get reckless, there's a good chance that they'll blindly run into these traps and throw the entire match, making you feel like the top dog in the process. Bit annoying then, when an unexperienced Kapkan completely wastes these explosives on doors that are already reinforced with castle's barricades. Those reinforced bits of armor block entries unless they're taken down with explosives, which inevitably destroys the trap in the process. A complete waste of resources. This is the biggest indicator that you're playing with someone who has no idea what they're doing. Get good, just kidding. Enjoying yourself is the most important thing. Number 3, the despair when one of your team is a recruit. So you've organized your squad perfectly. You've got Mute, Frost, Valkyrie, and Bandit all chosen. But there's one rogue element in the mix. Someone who isn't in your party. Someone who still hasn't chosen their operator with only 5 seconds left on the clock, doomed to start the match as a recruit. The class that everyone starts out with before they can buy a proper operator. Recruits are significantly underpowered when compared to anyone else on the roster, boasting a limited amount of reinforcements and a paltry selection of gadgets. Consequently, any team with a recruit is everything but a man down, and a player letting the clock accidentally run out and getting lumped with this class is a possibility which becomes a reality far too often, especially when playing casual rather than ranked. Number 2, the fear when a fuse is fired. Every round as the defending team in Siege begins with a mad dash to reinforce every surface you can find. While it's just smart to reinforce everything, it's also important because a wall, window, or a door that hasn't been barricaded is a dream come true for an enemy fuse, and a worst nightmare for you. Fuses can completely wipe out a team with one perfectly detonated charge through these surfaces, as once the grenades have penetrated the room, they're ridiculously hard to get away from. The general rule is that if you can see them, they can see you. Consequently, the distinct sound of a fuse placing one of the charges and the subsequent whiz of air that follows as these demons launch into the room is enough to send even the most calm and collected players into a frenzy. Seriously, if we heard this sound out of the game, we'd probably still instinctively run for cover. Number 1, the love-hate relationship with Twitch's shock drone. Functioning pretty much identical to the other drones in the game, the Twitch drone boasts one key addition: the ability to electrocute enemies and take out their traps. The drones are incredibly difficult to shoot, and you always look like a total fool when these little scamps have you wasting bullets firing at the floor or accidentally hitting a teammate while they gleefully weave between your legs. It's the gaming equivalent of trying to swat a fly, only the fly can shoot you with electricity and is probably laughing at you on the party chat. They might not even take much health off you or destroy any of the traps, but they can preoccupy you for the entire preparation stage, meaning that you don't have time to put up your own defenses and essentially leaving you to begin the round with your pants around your ankles. The thing is, while you'll be cursing the Twitch players dominating you, you'll have endless fun inflicting the same pain on others. Killing downed enemies with a drone is the ultimate insult, and very few things make you feel complete joy like causing absolute mayhem as this tiny little machine.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe below, and if you're looking for more content like this, then try a few things that are floating about around my ears. Might be fun. I can't promise it though, but it might be.